the top stories, top government officials attend church services on the weekend. Brazil's fight against COVID-19 hampered by flooding and favela growth, and Israel and Gaza fight enters its second week. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Monday, the 17th of May, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, top government officials joined the congregations of various churches in worship on Sunday as part of a series of church visits over the past few weeks. On Sunday morning, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris joined the leadership and membership of Touched by His Wounded Hands Ministry International in Pine Gardens in Shadwell. Among those in attendance were Deputy Speaker Senator Dr. the Honorable Bernicia Nisbet and Ambassador His Excellency Michael Powell. Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister the Honorable Sean Richards, accompanied by supporters and members of the Sandy Point PAM constituency group, joined Pastor Clive Saunders and his congregation at the Unique Touch Christian Center in Sandy Point for what was described as a memorable and inspirational Sunday morning of praise and worship. Images online have shown the Deputy Prime Minister performing a ceremony symbolizing love and humility as he washed the feet of congregants during the service. The Metrology Unit at the Bureau of Standards will be continuing its checks and verification processes this week to ensure that residents get accurate measurements at various institutions. On Tuesday and Wednesday, officers of the unit will be visiting clinics to verify the accuracy of scales. Head of the Metrology Unit, Iron O'Dane, noted that this process is significant this year as World Metrology Day will recognize the partnership between metrology and health.
The theme for this year's World Metrology Day is Metrology for Health. So we'll also be visiting the clinics where we'll be conducting verification on the scales, as well as we would be conducting a survey so that we could anticipate any other demands that the medical industry will have. The theme.
The unit will visit the Bastair Health Center in McKnight on May 18 at 9 a.m. and the Newtown Health Center at 1:30 p.m. to verify the scales. On Wednesday, May 19 at 10:30 a.m., the unit will visit the scales at the Old Road Health Center. The unit also plans to visit the Bronte Welch Primary School to make presentations on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Persons under age 30 from St. Kitts and Nevis, along with other Caribbean islands, are being invited to participate in the Caribbean Development Bank's spoken word competition under the theme Caribbean Youth Insights on Innovation and Education. A statement from the CDB says ideas should show how innovation can be used to make the Caribbean a better place, or how education can help students build innovation skills needed in the 21st century. Category 1 is for 10 to 14-year-olds, and they should submit a 90-second recording. Category 2, 15 to 19-year-olds should submit a 2-minute recording, and Category 3, 20 to 29-year-olds should submit a 5-minute recording. The prizes, the top 10 entries, will be showcased to the public in a People's Choice competition, the winner of which will receive a cash prize. The top entry in each category will also be awarded a cash prize as well. The overall top entry, selected by a panel of judges, will be showcased during the Look, Listen, Learn Youth Insights on Innovation Imperatives and Investment segment during the CDB's 2021 Board of Governors annual meeting on June 30. All applicants are required to submit the written text and a video showing the writer performing the piece. Only applicants with video submissions will be considered. The deadline is May 31, 11:59 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. We now move to news on the regional scene. In its struggle with the pandemic, Brazil is battling on several fronts as flooding hampers vaccination efforts in remote areas and poverty deepens in cities. More in this report.
Efforts to vaccinate people in the remote Amazonas state in Brazil are being hampered by flooding. Higher than average rainfall this year has forced health workers to take to boats to deliver vaccines to vulnerable residents who've been stranded by the floodwater.
Hoje nós estamos realizando.
Today we're going house to house with vaccines for influenza and against COVID. We're vaccinating people aged 18 to 59 and with chronic conditions.
Pessoas de 18 a 59 que tenham problemas crônicos.
Brazil has been hard hit by COVID-19, not just in remote areas, but also in its cities, where crowded neighbourhoods and poverty go hand in hand. New favelas are sprouting up in Sao Paulo. They're built and lived in by recently unemployed workers who've lost their jobs and homes as a result of the pandemic. Everyone ended up being fired. The majority of people were fired, and so was I. Without a job, I couldn't pay my rent. I was evicted from where I was living and found the solution here. I built my small shack here, and now I'm living here. Giovanni's story is far from uncommon. Former saleswoman Jessica Costa also lost her job and consequently her home. We decided to come here because with only one person working it's not possible to afford the rent. 2 small children, one aged 4 and the other 2. Things got tough and we had to come here, but I used to work before too. And there appears to be no let-up in the pandemic's assault on Brazil. Latest figures showed over 67,000 new infections registered in the previous 24 hours. The country's death toll stands at over 430,000.
The Guyana Tourism Authority will be clamping down on businesses under its purview that continue to defy COVID-19 restrictions. Naomi Williams of HGP TV News reports.
In keeping with the COVID-19 gazetted order, which allowed for the reopening of eating establishments and bars at 40% indoor dining capacity, in excess of 90 businesses have received conditional approval and have resumed operations. This was divulged by Deputy Director of the Guyana Tourism Authority, KAMRUL BAKSH, during a recent interview with this newscast. However, some of these establishments have been breaching the guidelines, and as such, the Inspectorate Department of the organization will be working with the COVID-19 task force to ensure compliance.
The Inspectorate of the GTA will also place those non-approval stickers there so that the public, the visiting public, will know of establishments who are not adhering to these guidelines. So we take this very, very seriously.
As it relates to the direct tourism businesses, which comprise interior lodges and resorts, a conditional approval process has been put in place for their reopening.
They have to submit their standard operation procedures. So we've set this up where those businesses would need to demonstrate to the GTA what they're doing operationally wise, what measures are you putting in terms of hygiene and sanitation. Once we're satisfied based on the criteria and the requirements, really, we would then go out and do an on-site inspection of the business to ensure that they're in compliance.
31 businesses, which include store operators, interior lodges and resorts, and tourism accommodation establishments, have been issued conditional approval letters to operate since the implementation of initiative last December. Speaking to the issue of tourist arrivals since the reopening of the airports in November 2020, BAKSH noted that the COVID-19 travel and other restrictions in many key source markets such as Canada and the United Kingdom continue to be a bugbear.
Numbers are down about 70 to 75%. The data suggests as compared to last year, and I can share these data with you for sure. But yeah, most persons are coming here for doing business, and also a portion of them are also from the diaspora.
Reminding that the local tourism industry was disproportionately affected by the pandemic, which literally ground operations to a halt in 2020, BAKSH said the sector is on a stringent and determined path to rebuilding, revitalization, and recovering, which will be executed through a strategic menu of measures. Chief among these is a marketing destination Guyana as safe for travel.
Is to ensure that properties, like you're saying, that the interior lodges and resorts, the hotels, the operators are operating safely. So they're following the guidelines. And once we could put this out to our key source markets, the world will know that Guyana is a safe destination to travel.
Retrofitting the design and experiences of current tourism offerings in a safe way is also on the agenda for the GTA, as well as the introduction of new products in the culinary and soft adventure arenas. Highlighting the importance of investing in training and capacity building, BAKSH related that the development of the curriculum for the Tourism and Hospitality Institute of Guyana is forging ahead. While the future as it relates to the end of the pandemic remains uncertain, the GTA is assiduously getting the industry in a state of readiness so that whenever the world returns to a state of normalcy, destination Guyana and its unique allure will be on the minds of travelers, according to BAKSH. Reporting for the HGP Nightly News, Naomi Williams.
Internationally, Israel and Gaza's ruling Hamas militant group faced mounting international calls for a ceasefire in hostilities that entered their second week with no end in sight. More in this report.
Palestinians searched for survivors in Gaza Sunday after an Israeli airstrike destroyed several homes and killed dozens, including at least 10 children, according to health officials, as Hamas militants fired rockets at Israel with no end in sight to 7 days of fighting. The Israeli military said in a statement that the civilian casualties were unintentional, saying its jets attacked a tunnel system used by Hamas, which collapsed, bringing the homes down. Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza, called it, quote, a premeditated killing. On CBS's Face the Nation Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed his military's assertion that Israel tried to avoid civilian casualties, but that Hamas bore responsibility for, quote, intentionally locating its military infrastructure under civilian houses.
We are targeting a terrorist organization that is targeting our civilians and hiding behind their civilians, using them as human shields. We're doing everything we can to hit the terrorists themselves.
Netanyahu also defended an Israeli strike on Saturday that destroyed a 12-story building where the Associated Press and the Al Jazeera TV network had offices, saying Israel had informed the U.S. of the attack.
We share with our American friends all that intelligence, and here's the intelligence we had. It's about Palestinian terrorist, an intelligence office for the Palestinian terrorist organization housed in that building that plots and organizes the terror attacks against Israeli civilians. So it's a perfectly legitimate target.
The Associated Press has condemned the strike and asked Israel to put forward its evidence that Hamas was in the building.
The current hostilities are utterly appalling.
Meanwhile, in New York, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an immediate end to fighting at the Security Council's first public meeting on the conflict.
Fighting must stop.
Hamas began its rocket assault last Monday after weeks of tensions over a court case to evict several Palestinian families in East Jerusalem, and in retaliation for Israeli police clashes with Palestinians near the city's Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. On Sunday, video obtained by Reuters showed a car ramming into an Israeli police roadblock in East Jerusalem, where authorities said 6 police officers were injured in the incident, and that the driver of the vehicle was shot dead at the scene. Later, in a statement, a spokesman from Hamas praised what he called, quote, a heroic and daring operation.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are fair skies with haze. Winds are a gentle breeze of 10 miles per hour from the southeast. The temperature is 31 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 3 to 5 feet. And the forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis for today says to expect partly sunny skies and tonight mostly clear skies. Sunset today will be at 6:36 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 5:38 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.